Hanhoo taking a knife and stabbing an actor because he's jealous? Sure, why not? Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today, we'll be discussing Park Han-hoo's Manager by KIM TAC, and this review is thanks in part to those of you who took part in my poll. This was the winner of the poll, childhood friends meet again in gang and or mafia scenario. If you'd like to help decide what gets reviewed next, go ahead and subscribe, get your BL Library card for the BL Library, and be on the lookout for my community posts with the polls. If you want more power in the polls, and some other fun benefits, check out my Patreon. I've got some fun read with me and play with me live streams happening over there. I'm currently playing Cloud Meadow, which is an 18+ game. Oh my god, did you see that CG? See, I've always played women, so I've never got to see that. Wow! The cum dripping out on the table. That was excellent. Plus some Patreon-only giveaways. You can find that in the description below. Before we get started, there will be spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled on this manhwa, go ahead and click off now. No worries, I'll catch you next time. For those of you who decide to stick around, let's go over some content warnings and get ready, this is a long one. There may be references to orphans, power imbalance, social gap, prejudice, bullying, gang activity, violence, mass murder, memory loss, death, homelessness, blood, gun violence, counterfeiting, invasion of privacy, mental illness, gossiping, non-consenting recording, mentions of drug trafficking, blackmail, extortion, manipulation, corruption, kidnapping, survivor's guilt, poisoning, assault, adoption, murder for hire, child abuse, mentions of alcoholism, mentions of gambling, vandalism, theft, mentions of divorce, strained familial relationships, politics, self-deprecation, stalking, bombs, homomesia, mentions of arranged marriage, terminal illness, suicidal ideation, imprisonment, mentions of suicide, terrorism, and mentions of torture, as these things do appear in the manhwa. But if that's okay with you, let's go and get started. Chen Sol has finally moved back to his home country. The only reason he left was because, as a teenager, the infamous serial killer August murdered everyone at his orphanage, leaving him as the sole survivor. Fearing August might return to finish the job, Chen Sol was carted out of the country. But Chen Sol didn't spend that time hiding. He spent all of his time looking for information about August because he plans to get revenge for the family he destroyed. And now that he's back in the country, his first step is to get a job at weapon manufacturer Why? Because there's an employee there that supposedly has been hunting for information on August too, and Chen Sol wants to steal as much of that information as possible. But that isn't the only mission Chen Sol has. Before Chen Sol had to escape the country, he had a friend named Park Han-hoo. Chen Sol promised Han-hoo he would be by his side forever, but he obviously had broken that promise. So Chen Sol wants to find his one and only friend to finally make amends for his broken promise. While Chen Sol is determined to achieve both goals, his new boss at might make it rather difficult. Han is violent and unrestrained. He happily confines people, is willing to stab someone on a whim, and even tests out weapons on random citizens. Plus, most of top clients are either the government or mafia members, so every day is a risk for Chen Sol. But maybe the strangest of all is weird obsession with Chen Sol. Everything seems to be a game to and even when he's aware of all of Chen Sol's plans to steal and invade his privacy, only encourages him. Just what is up to? And will Chen Sol ever be able to find August and his friend? To start with, the art in this is pretty unique. It's very inconsistent, especially with side profiles. There's something about the side profiles that I really despise. I believe it's because of how short the face is from the neck. Everyone looks like they've run face first into a wall, which isn't that great. It's funny, but not that nice looking. With that said, Hanhoo is the hottest character in this series. He has the prettiest design and panels by far, so that's a nice reprieve. The chibis are also very simple, but very cute and funny. Story-wise, this was a weird one. Per the opening notes, this takes place in a made-up country in our world, so it's modern day, which is cool. But this country might be the most terrifying country I've ever heard of. It seems like a pseudo-United States based on some references, but the corruption is publicly acknowledged and accepted. Mafia members openly buy weapons, non-mafia members openly kill each other and test weapons on the public, and both the government and the mafia have public contracts with weapon manufacturers. Perhaps I'm just ignorant of this actually happening here in the US, but it was still super shocking. But this has the effect of making every shocking and violent thing that happens through the series reasonable because of the world our characters live in. Hanhoo taking a knife and stabbing an actor because he's jealous? Sure, why not? Getting medical treatment from an actor instead of a hospital? Makes sense. Hanhoo dropping out of high school to work at a weapon manufacturer? Of course, who needs credentials? Why couldn't a high schooler work in developing and testing weaponry? It's all very unbelievable and requires a pretty high suspension of disbelief, but it keeps you guessing, and I think that's what makes this successful. But what I love about this series isn't the wild violence, the open corruption, or Hanhoo's face. Okay, that's a lie. I do love Hanhoo's face. But Hanhoo's character is what really intrigues me. He's cold and apathetic, not even having a reason to look forward to the next day or even care about it. Then he meets Chansol. Reading how his annoyance grew to possessiveness only to finally evolve into love is surprisingly beautiful. There's a particular line he says in reference to looking forward to tomorrow, which is one of the most romantic lines I've ever read in a manhwa. I would tell you all what it is, but I think this moment is worth experiencing for yourself. I think the series is worth reading for this section of the story alone. But more than anything, the reveal of August's identity is something to see. I truly didn't expect it. I'm all about spoilers in these reviews, but there are some fun things to experience in this manhwa that I think everyone should have the opportunity to experience for themselves. So yes, I'm refraining from revealing this info. As a small, random side note, this is a very comedic story. For being so dark, there are a bunch of really fun giggles. So if you're afraid this might be all dark with no reprieve, you'll be happy to know that's not the case. With all that being said, this was a treat. It isn't perfect by any means, and I wouldn't call it a favorite, but it's certainly interesting. I don't read much Shounen-ai, so it's always refreshing to read something more focused on the romance and the story rather than the sex. I wanted some smut by the end, but I enjoyed it all the same. Hanhoo certainly makes this for me, and the humor is really nice too. I'd recommend this one. So, have you read Park Han-hoo's Manager? If so, what do you think? Do you agree with my assessment? Do you not? Let me know in the comment below. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time. Bye!